Ah, yes, yet another glorious world in the rim of the galaxy, filled with wonderful wildlife and many bloodthirsty governments and factions who only want money and power, littered with ancient relics and reminders of their sins long since past. All they've ever known is war and death, and yet somehow, life not only finds a way to survive, but thrive in places like this. Some life on the planet is ancient, forgotten eons ago. That's where I come in. The Archotechs have been lost to the ages, their technology a reminder of a civilization long since forgotten. Today, all that changes. Hey there, the name is... Well, the name isn't important. It doesn't matter who I am, but more what I am. I, as you could have guessed, am an Archotech, and it would seem that I've been in my slumber for far too long. Thankfully, being in my stasis pod, even for such an extended period of time, doesn't seem to have affected my body nor my augmentations for the moment, so I think I'm alright. My lord, I've been out for far longer than I thought, by millions of years. There's no signal from the others. It would seem that they've left me behind. It seems that I need to go on a bit of a quest, a journey to find my people. Oh man, no wonder they left me here. The cave system has, well, caved in. They probably had no idea that I was even here. Well, there's only one way out. It's time for us to start moving mountains. Quite literally. It's what my people are good at. I dug myself a narrow hallway to ensure that we don't have yet another cave-in on top of me this time. Ah, this world is not like the one that I had left. It would seem our terraforming efforts have went wonderfully. Curious if any species have evolved yet. Ah, there's one now. Ah, such a gorgeous little avian. I have a feeling it has a very simple mind, and if I offer it some berries... Ah, yes, now look at us, a couple of best pals, I'd say. Looks like I'm going to have some good company joining me on my little journey and quest. I must find and reunite with my people. No doubt every single one of them have already taken to the stars, so I am long behind them. I need to find a way off this world. I won't be going into this unarmed, though. Our little bird friend needs somebody who can protect them, and if he's evolved already, no doubt there's plenty of predators out there at the very least. There might even be some sentient life. But first, how about a name, little fellow? Ah, Barry. I like it, because, well, you like berries. Yes. Oh, also you're a lady. That's pretty cool. We would finally set off on our journey, heading to the south. We could see what appeared to be some type of town in the distance. Maybe sentient life is here after all. Ah, as we continued our journey, I could see the scars of terraforming on these lands. Our efforts may have uglied up the planet a bit, but it looks like it was all worth it. No doubt when we arrive to this little town, its species will almost definitely try to worship me, but after I explain that their entire existence here is due to me and my people, surely they'll be willing to give me a ship. I've decided to make direct contact with these lesser life forms. It would seem improper to communicate with them via radio waves or anything. We don't know how advanced they are anyhow. As I approached, they seemed to have some automatic toaster ovens that were quite angry and aggressive, throwing pieces of metal at me, but I paid them no mind. Greetings, humans. Hello, Excuse, what the f*** are you doing? Well, perhaps some of you saw this coming, but the humans wouldn't worship me at all, and rather started attacking me, attempting to kill me for whatever reason. Fine then, you don't want to give up your ship voluntarily? I guess I'll just have to take it. Prepare your asses for a good spanking. Not to be the bearer of bad news, but these poor souls were only made in my image. They can't compare to the real deal, and neither can their weapons. It barely even put a scratch on my hardened skin. And their armor couldn't hold up against my weaponry of advanced firepower that melted them like chocolate in the hot summer sun. Oh, whoopsie daisy, almost missed one. There he is. Well, some good news and bad news. The good news is I killed all of the inhabitants here, and we can now claim this place for ourselves. But the bad news is there's no ship here. not at all. My word, such primitive methods of generating power. No wonder there's no ship here. These beasts are barely even evolved. I'd be shocked if they've even put a man on the moon yet. There's no ship, but at least there was plenty of food, and hey, Barry really seems to enjoy it, and if she's happy, I'm happy. Regardless though, I still have a lot of work to do, like deconstructing this entire place to give us scraps of plasteel and uranium. Thanks to these metallic resources, along with the fact that I brought plenty of Arco fragments from home before I left, we had just enough to build us a workshop. One that I could use to create proper, more advanced weapons and armor for myself. Sure, I might be basically indestructible, but I am defending my sweet little Blue Jay companion too on this journey. I have to be ready. I'm going to be creating for myself a gigantic exosuit of armor to make me stronger, faster. That's about it. But don't I look good in it, mama? It's a shame I didn't have enough to build myself some power armor. I could really do some damage against our enemies then, but this'll have to suffice for now. Alright, Barry, it's time for you to start pulling your weight, little lass. We need to find a way off this planet. Any ideas? Son of a bitch, Barry. A ship to the stars isn't just gonna fall into our lap. Oh. Okay. Apparently it will. Apparently an AI from my past going by the name of Charlene Whitestone. Yes, of course. I remember you. Now just get me off this planet. Well, now we have a ship, but the issue is going to be getting there, as it's basically on the other side of the planet. A very far distance, even for an advanced race like myself to have to walk. As we were planning out our journey, the Outlanders' ritualized light emitter they called a television told tale of an imperial government of the planet. Perhaps they'll be more sympathetic to my plight. Well, initial attempts to make contact went nowhere. They wouldn't even let me in the city. But I wasn't about to take a no for an answer. These rotten, no-good bastards mining out the mountains that I helped create and to put resources in? Well, on second thought, I suppose that was a bad idea on my part, but nevertheless, they are defacing this beautiful planet. Such primitive little creatures and their mining outpost. Although I do wonder if we could use this to our advantage. Since they're moving so many minerals, some of these shuttles could come in handy for us. We do have an awful lot of distance to cover after all. Oh, that's it. I'm taking one. But first we'll need to deal with the Imperials and their oversized toaster ovens. Thanks to my new exosuit, we should be able to clear them out in half the time. Oh, we are setting records today. A great, big, speedy bloodbath. Now don't get me wrong, I take no pleasure in the pitiful slaughter of these primates, but it must be done. I can't have them interfering with my escape from the planet. Besides, they refuse to stand aside, and thus, they must be trampled, I'm afraid. I tried to play nice, I really did, but they really wanted to do things the hard way, and, well, you can see what happened. We killed damn near every single one of them, except for a handful who ended up getting away from my wrath. How lucky for them that I'm on a mission to get out of here. Otherwise, I really wouldn't mind tracking them down and cutting their heads off. Especially because of this, a shelf built out of Arco fragments. Seriously. To think that this is what they use our extraordinary technology for. Shelves and batteries. At least it is back in proper hands. My hands, that is. Come on, Barry, the fighting's over. You're safe now, little buddy. Let's put you in the shuttle and let's get the hell out of here. We've got a date with Destiny, little lady. If Destiny is Charlene Whitestone or whatever her name is, the AI that I'm pretending to know so that, we can get the hell out of here. Speaking of which, we had just enough fuel in the shuttle's cargo bay to make it to our destination without issue. Wow, take it all in, Barry. Ain't she a beaut? Well, actually, it kind of looks like somebody welded together a bunch of soda cans, but as long as it works. This is it, sister. Our ticket off-world to join my people in the great beyond. Finally, let's do this. Oh yeah, I forgot. We have to wait for it to power up for 15 days. Fine, whatever. In the meantime, I'm going to start deconstructing some of these ancient buildings and also cutting down quite a few of these trees. That way we can build ourselves a teeny little shelter. What's that? For me? Oh, no, 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 no. I'm such a superior species, I don't require a shelter. On the contrary, though, my little buddy Barry here needs a safe place to stay. That way she doesn't get eaten by predators, and also I can keep a good eye on her and ensure that no attackers end up murdering her, because I would lose my mind if that happened. Not to worry, though, for she has me to protect her, and her new little shack here has all the agave that she could ever want. She'll be fine and well fed. But I know what you're thinking, why aren't you building any defenses? You're gonna have to fend off a lot of tedious raids. At some points while the ship is powering up, you'll be taking on 2 to 3 to even 4 raids per day. How will you ever keep Barry the bird alive and the ship intact and keep it from getting destroyed by these ne'er-do-wells if you don't build a defense? Oh, you poor dumb animal. I am the defense. As you could see, things were going swimmingly, but with sheer numbers alone, the Neanderthals would come in from several different directions, and they, surprisingly, were the ones to actually get a few hits in on the ship, destroying a cryosleep casket. Nothing I'm really worried about. However, this did make me think that I need a weapon with a much longer range and perhaps even a bit more power to it to hit enemies from farther, so this doesn't happen anymore. This is the Devastator. One shot from this slug thrower should end any organic creature with ease, penetrating even the armors that my species could create. Needless to say, it's a bit overkill, but if for some reason things really go south, we have a terror pulsar, a special tool that will help us later, but just think if we pushed a button and then everybody in the area's minds were corrupted and caused them to flee. There you go. In the last final days between killing folks, I would also do some pretty major repairs to my armor. To my surprise, endless waves of enemies actually started putting a few scratches on it. That was about it, though. And then the final day would come, the last few hours before the ship finally powered up. But something told me that we were in store for quite the attack. And after the reactor was ready, it would seem that I was correct. All those Imperials that had been waiting in nearby areas for the reactor so they could try to snake it from us in the last final minutes. I've been expecting you. It seems they've even brought the leader of their entire clan, a Stellark, I believe as they're called. I suppose that this ship and reactor must be super duper important to you. Too damn bad. It's more important to me and my friend Barry. Speaking of which, Barry, get inside your cryopod. You don't want to see what Papa's about to do. Shit's about to get ugly, baby. Well, that sure was fun. I'm gonna level with you, though. I'm not sure if the terror pulsar scared them all away, or the fact that I single-handedly killed half of their entire fighting force. You know what? At the end of the day, I don't think that it really matters. How about you, Imperials? Oh, what's the matter? Cat got you a tongue? No, actually, I think you're all mostly dead. A gigantic pile of corpses, except for some of you that are flailing around. It looks like my new weapon is quite efficient. We easily won the battle, of course, but the ship wasn't quite as lucky as we were, sustaining some pretty heavy damage. Now, the most important part, that being Barry's cryo-sleep casket, was still intact, thank God. Phew, if I had lost him, I probably would have had to have conquered the entire planet and enslaved the humans that live here and built my own empire dedicated to Barry the bird and building giant shrines out of gold and obsidian to him as I suppressed and oppressed the people. Thank God I don't have to do any of that now. However, before we can get this bad boy off the ground and take to the stars, it looks like we're going to need to build ourselves another sensor cluster, as the one that was attached was destroyed. Just one little problem. Sensor clusters require quite a few resources. Now, many of these we already had because the Imperials had brought some with them, like advanced components, steel, normal components, everything except for gold. Wait a minute. I know where we could find some gold. The Stellark, God rest her soul, has a little bit on top her head. Well, don't mind if I do. It would seem that this attack from the Empire was not a roadblock. Well, it kinda was, but it was actually a bridge to get us back on track. After we smelt down her crown and build our sensors. There we go. Alright, without further ado, let's get the hell out of here. We have a much larger journey to embark on. For this, it's not the end, but simply a new beginning. See you later. Well, it seems my journey to my fellow architects has been abruptly interrupted by a large asteroid. I suppose things could be worse. We were sucked into the planet's gravity. Well, we could have ended up hitting the surface. And since we hit the asteroid instead, it would seem that a decent portion of the ship, though scattered all throughout the asteroid, did make it intact for the most part. Although we're definitely not going to be flying anywhere anytime soon. Thank God, the most important part of the ship of all had made it without even a scratch. The cryosleep container containing my best friend, Barry the Bluebird. Glad you're alright, little lady. But given our current surroundings, I don't think it would be safe to take you out of cryosleep. Not yet, at least. I think we're gonna have to turn this floating asteroid house into a floating asteroid home. Well, I won't be needing my armor anytime soon, or even if I do, it'll be right here if I need it, and I don't want to use up all the power. My people are the ancient terraformers and seeders of all the worlds in the galaxy, and possibly even the universe. How hard could it be to terraform one little asteroid? I suppose we're gonna find out. I immediately started mining out a small section to the middle of the asteroid. That way I could make a temporary base until we have things set up properly. Thankfully, the asteroid apparently has some traces of plasteel, which will be perfect for going about building things like a stone cutting table and tools to chisel the vac stone into some proper blocks. Realistically, I wouldn't mind building this little temporary base on the inside of the asteroid itself out of plasteel completely, but one, I don't think we have enough plasteel to go about doing that. So, of course, vaxstone is much more abundant, and two, plasteel is going to be used for other important things later on. And after a few hours of hard work, we now have a hallway. But this isn't just any hallway. I guess it kind of is, but it's going to be our storage hallway on the inside. That way, all of our advanced components and other things we have don't deteriorate out in the sunlight with all the radiation. The solar winds can be a real bitch sometimes, and the last thing that we need are faulty components. No, this is a much safer place for all our things. Since I think I'd like to stay here at least for a little while, I have no plans of using any of my ship parts to try to rebuild it or refurbish it, so I think I'm going to deconstruct those. Besides, we could better use those resources like uranium and advanced components for other things, such as some advanced solar panels that we can use to charge some advanced batteries. It's going to take a lot of electricity to go about terraforming this rock, so I find it best if we go ahead and start stocking up on that immediately. We're also going to begin tidying the place up a little bit, filling in some of these giant craters and just sweeping them right off the edge into orbit. Once she was all clean and purty, we started building ourselves some soil injectors. The plan here is that these injectors will actually change the rough vaxstone into some proper soil. If you've used this mod before, you probably will realize that this doesn't work, and especially not without an atmosphere. I didn't know that at the time, but I'll figure it out later, I promise. Again, though, soil really won't even do us that much good without an atmosphere. We won't be able to grow any vegetation, and our little bluebird companion won't be able to breathe, which is pretty important. The biggest issue we currently face is to go about building an atmospheric projector. We need 2 grav cores, which we don't currently possess at all. I think I might just know where to find some though, or if not, some projectors themselves. You see, this planet is a vac world. It has an incredibly thin atmosphere, but there's no proper mix of gases for folks to survive on the surface. The only way they can live there is with the help of technology, though it would seem there are quite a few orbital platforms, basically towns in the sky for some of you lesser life forms. Since we don't currently have any means of traveling to the platforms at the moment, we'll adventure to the surface to explore some of the abandoned colonies there, and hopefully, with a little bit of luck and charm, we might just be able to find some useful technology to reuse. We would explore a few places and really found nothing. The one that you're seeing now is the 3rd abandoned colony that we would end up exploring. You know, since this video is about terraforming an asteroid and not exploring useless ghost town ruins, I'll just save you the trouble and just let you know this was the first with anything useful or anything we had interest in. We had approached, and I was looking to speak with the inhabitants to see if they might be willing to trade some of this tech, but as you could guess though, they weren't exactly up for conversation. They were dead. All of them. And because of that, that means that nobody owns anything here anymore, and it's all up for grabs, and I won't feel guilty about it. Funny enough, we ended up finding an atmospheric projector here. It was in need of some pretty serious repairs, though, and was probably the cause of everyone dying to the vacuum. Although, perhaps it just ran out of fuel. Looks like it only accepts burning wood, which is a little bit strange, but there's also no trees growing down here, so I may have just cracked the case. Either way, there are a lot of different things built out of wood, so I'm gonna start pulling up the floorboards, deconstructing chairs, tearing everything apart. That way we have plenty to start. We also took as many components, steel, and other useful materials that we could use up there to terraform with us as well. The hardest part was just getting all that shit loaded up and sending it there. But obviously, we did end up managing it. The only thing now left to do was for me and our new atmospheric projector to come on home. With this little bad boy set up, we could really start terraforming the asteroid truly, properly even, as where we before tried to use the soil injectors, and apparently these are only good on planetary terrains. Like, you can use them on other types of soil or on like earthly stone materials. Not exactly useful here where we're at, so I'm gonna get rid of these pieces of junk. But as you can see with the projector, after it was finally installed, we are actually beginning our terraforming efforts with some proper soil coming up around it. once we get all the soil in this area and bubble of the atmosphere that we've created out there, we'll also be able to start growing some proper grass and other different types of vegetation like trees and crops. You know the drill though, just when I start having fun, a group of pirates has to try to come in and ruin it for me. Alright, hold it right there, little human. Lucky for you, I've recently turned over a new leaf. I'm looking to terraform this rock as a home, a place of my own, and I'm no longer looking to spill the blood of your insignificant kind. Well, I tried. You saw. Can't say I didn't warn him. You know, I'm really not sure how he expected that to go. Well, unfortunately, we had to spill blood to build such a beautiful terraformed rock, but indeed, by this point, we have terraformed a lot of land. I mostly just sat around and waited for this to happen. I don't really have to eat or sleep all that often, so it wasn't nothing to me. A bit boring, maybe. But all that is about to change, because I'm cracking open the cryopod. Welcome back, Barry the Bluebird. I missed you too, little buddy. Right. No, I know. Yeah, a gigantic Imperial raid. Yeah, no, don't worry about that, Barry. I killed all those people. You've been in the cryopod for quite some time. No, this isn't the Archotech. Listen. My feathered friend, I hope you like it here. I know it's not the godlike technological planet of my people, as I promised, but it's a place of our own. And I think that's worth more than anything. Even returning to my people, assuming that they're still alive out there somewhere. Now that my avian companion has rejoined me from her cryo-sleep, we need some food. I began planting a large patch of berries in our newly terraformed land. Oh, that's right, little lady. I know your favorite snack. Some food would be nice for myself as well, I suppose. I haven't eaten in months since waking up. Surprised I have to eat at all. I almost forgot myself, it's so rare, as I mentioned earlier, but it is necessary from time to time. While we're waiting on our bushels of berries to grow, I would also build myself some type of prehistoric communication device built off a blueprint of a human design. Don't worry about it. I think I should probably do a bit of trading with him, since I don't really have any other way of acquiring resources, even though I loathe those lesser life forms. Alas, for now, I suppose I'll need to do some business with them, as they can give me useful items like shuttle engines as well as components to build with. I would also end up building some heaters and oxygen pumps on the inside of my little storage hallway place, and the reason for that is because I'm going to be bringing Barry on the inside. We're going to be terraforming the entire asteroid, not just tiny little bits and pieces of it. And of course, I didn't want Barry to start suffocating out there when I ended up moving the terraforming atmosphere generator to the center of the asteroid. Now, I am probably going to have to build at least 2 or 3 more of these to encompass the entire place, but for now, this will be fine. There was the slight issue of this killing off all those berries and grass that I had planted, so things are a little bare for now, but that's alright. Should I have just waited to do all this and then wake Barry up? Of course, but I was getting a little bit too sad without her. Ironically, even after saying that, I would end up building myself a shuttle, that way I could leave her once more. But I simply would be leaving her behind here at our asteroid because it wasn't safe for her where I was going. I say we go find some more grav cores for our terraformers. Perhaps the orbital traders can help us out. They weren't returning my signals of communication, so guess I'll just have to show up. I'll be right back, Barry. Papa loves you very much. Stay put. Wait, what's that say? Requires signal jammer. Pfft, yeah, okay, sure. Well, I suppose that's one way to make an entrance. Not friends, though. Oh well. It would seem the traders were not too keen on me coming to visit unannounced, even though I tried to call them several times and they never would pick up the phone. Now we gotta do things the hard way. I mean, come now, do you really think I wanted to come in here and murder all of you? Well, maybe a little bit, but I wasn't going to. I'm trying to be better. I just want to terraform my asteroid in peace. Now think of all the letters they're gonna have to send home to your families. You humans, I swear, none of you are compassionate at all. Think about how this makes me feel. You think I want to have to do this? That fellow right there, the one I just shot and turned his head into a painting on the wall. You think I enjoyed that more than usual? Wow, okay, yeah, now look at me. Now I look like the bad guy. Fire foam on my face. Real cute, everybody. I guess my work is done here. Oh yeah, wait, I gotta get those grav cores. Phew, Barry would have really chewed my ass out if I forgot to bring these home, especially after exterminating everyone here. Not only did they have the grav cores that we were looking for, but they also had some spare engines, plasteel, and everything else that we needed to build ourselves a brand new ship thrown together by some of the old parts of the one that I crashed into the station. Note to self, next time use a signal jammer. Note taken. I would return home with all the new things that I had brought back with me, and I was so tired I fell asleep out there on the nice soft ground. And thanks to the new grav cores and everything else that we had brought back with us, we were able to build ourselves a couple more of these atmospheric generators, which also means we can go about planting more berries. You hear that, Barry? You're gonna be excited! I knew she would be. Until we get those grown, though, I suppose she can eat on some of the meals that I had brought back from the station as well. They won't be needing those anymore. Now, with the entire asteroid encompassed by an atmosphere, we could also plant crops anywhere that we like. So we started planting some fiber corn on the eastern side. That way we can keep our generators fueled at all times. Because if we were to lose power to any of our generators, then all of our vegetation and all the life that we're growing here would die in the vacuum within a matter of minutes. Something we'd really like to avoid, of course. I did notice that all throughout the asteroid there were some very cold spots, so it looks like it's going to be a while before vegetation grows everywhere, but in the warmer areas, once things kind of even out a bit, I think we'll be fine. Let us sow our seeds of life far and wide. Or at least as far as this rock spreads, but you know what I mean. Even with as many terraforming generators as we have, the process can still take quite a while. So, in the meantime, I thought it might be nice for us to have a backup plan on the inside in case something were to happen. A proper home for me and Barry. Nothing too fancy, just a simple bedroom with some fine flooring and smoothed walls, as well as some decent furniture, all of course made of vac stone. We're very eco-friendly here, as you can tell. This will be something of a panic room in case something were to happen and all of our atmosphere were to collapse. Barry could retreat in here and she would be a-okay while I go out and fix things or murder people or whatever I need to do. It's also a nice place to rest for the rare occasion where I need a bit of sleep. Most of the time I'm just pretending, but it makes Barry feel more comfortable, you understand. But my friends, with enough time, we have truly terraform this asteroid. It is now a vibrant place of life and luscious vegetation. A wonderful and beautiful illuminated emerald of thriving, vibrant life out here in the void. My very own small slice of heaven in all this hell, to share with my friend Barry, who just so happens to have all of her berries ripe for the harvest. There you are, girl. I knew you'd be excited. You know, Barry, perhaps I don't need to find my people after all. If I could be honest with you, I'm not even sure that they're still out there. And if they are, I'm not sure that I would like who I'd find. They would most likely exile me for becoming friends with what they would consider a lower life form. Not my words, Barry, theirs. Perhaps it's time that I begin living a simpler life. As an asteroid farmer here in this paradise, Hang up my armor for good, once and for all. Well, okay, maybe not completely. I'll still need to put it on and wield my gigantic Devastator rifle to go about protecting our new home. But you know what I mean. Alas, though, I do still hold out a hope of maybe I'll end up creating some kind of, I don't know, say gigantic slave empire on the Vac planet below. Perhaps I could terraform the entire place, slowly breeding, farming, and culling a gigantic crop of traders, slaves, imperial slaves, and any other lesser humanoids. Or I could hang up my armor for now and start growing vast crops of strawberries and maybe a few other different things, and I could learn how to cook up here and create a gigantic space kitchen. I don't know. I suppose we'll just have to see where things take us. But one thing is for sure, I absolutely love it here, and I am very proud of the terraforming work that we've performed. We turned a floating rock of absolutely nothing, junk, it was dog shit, into a proper home. And we all had fun doing it, huh? That's worth something. See you later. Hello there, I am an Archotech. But you could probably already tell that, couldn't you? Yes, I'm an ancient godlike being, get over yourself. And more importantly, this is Berry the Bluebird. She is, well, she's more than just my pet. She's my best friend. I love you too, Barry. We live here on an asteroid that we've recently terraformed, turning it into our own little piece of paradise. We crash-landed here quite some time ago when we were actually venturing out into the great beyond to try to find the rest of my people. Which I think they might all be dead, so we don't really care anymore. Our little humble abode is currently in a low orbit around a vac world. Probably a once populated somewhat world by some ancient human colonies or something. Nobody can really live there now, who cares? Even though nobody lives on the surface, many humans do have a few stations in orbit around the planet. Some of them bother us and we slaughter them, others mind their own business and we allow them to survive and we tolerate their presence. But all this is rather lonely. You know, I do love Berry the Bluebird. She's my best pal, as I mentioned, but she's not exactly one for complex conversation. And sure, I haven't been able to find my people, but what if, maybe, just maybe, I could bring my people to me? Thankfully, being an Archotech, I still have access to some of the vast knowledge that my people acquired, which is beyond most humans' comprehension, so I'll spare you some of the details, but I will tell you that it also means I know how to go about doing some rudimentary cloning. And our good friend Dag Nabbit brings up an interesting conundrum. Can I clone myself? Can I really restore a small fraction of the population of my species and my people by cloning only me? Let's find out. Now, since the cloning process takes up a lot of room, a lot of effort, and also a lot of power, we are going to be digging out a very large room here under the asteroid. That way we should have enough space to do whatever we need, while also having some space to expand. I didn't currently have anywhere to put all the Vaxstone chunks, so of course we're going to be cutting them into blocks, and we'll end up using them for furniture and flooring, as we have thus far. I will say, though, I'm not all that pleased with using Vaxstone to go about making flooring and furniture. The reason for that is because, one, I feel like the colors are a bit too dull, and two, I'm an Archotech, for God's sake. Surely I could do better than that, so eventually I'll end up changing this. But for now, it serves its purpose, and I have much larger issues to attend to, like creating all these growth vats. Thanks to the comms console that we built last episode, I am able to trade with humans, as much as I find them a bit despicable and cruel and not really worthy of being allowed to breathe. It does help me out with getting plenty of steel and components to build about 30 or so growth vats, I believe. Assuming the cloning process is even possible, I think this should be more than enough for a start of repopulating the Archotech species. There's just one little problem. You see, I need to collect some of my own DNA to go about doing this, but as an Archotech, the only way to collect this type of DNA is for me to be under anesthesia. Now, there is different types of medicine that can put me to sleep for a particular period of time, but even as a godlike being, I can't collect DNA while I'm asleep. It just doesn't work like that. And since Barry doesn't have any thumbs, no offense, Barry, I don't have any way to go about collecting this unless we get another person. But as you well know, just as I, humans are inherently evil, and one of them could not be trusted with my precious DNA, let alone having me there asleep. So I need to come up with a better solution. Perhaps not a natural, organic creature, but a cybernetic manufactured being. Archotechs are some of the greatest creators of life in the universe. What's one little android? Surely it can't be that hard? Well, a little bit harder than I thought. I would have to work tirelessly for hours. But eventually, voila! I introduce to you our pneumatic drone, DFDCE. Unfortunately, she has absolutely zero archotechnology in her being, as I don't exactly have enough access to fragments to give her quite the upgrade. But maybe later on. For now, I think she'll serve her purpose of collecting DNA. But first, we need to do something about that god-awful name. Ah, now that is much better. A name from one of our wonderful patrons, Brian Lapiraus. Now, Brian isn't exactly a gender-neutral name, I guess, but technically she's a robot, so she's not really even a she. It works out, I guess. Either way, with some glitter world medicine, I would be able to take a snooze for a brief period of time to rest my weary eyes as she collected some DNA from my unconscious body. A strange sentence, but the brief operation was a complete success. Now, this DNA of mine is worth more than some planets in the universe. Realistically, most planets. We have to be extra careful with it. Finally, though, the moment we've all been waiting for. Upon initial inspection, it would appear that we are able to clone me, and we will be growing another Archotech. This little jelly bean doesn't know it, but it is one of the most powerful beings to ever exist. Oh, Barry, do you hear that? You're going to be an auntie. I know, Barry, I'm excited too, but we're not just going to be growing one little Archotech disciple, we're going to be growing 10 for our first batch of clones, in case they turn out deformed or just messed up, or they all die, or something bad ends up happening. I don't want to lose an entire huge batch of them, you understand. Plus, another issue is we're kind of struggling to feed the 10 that we're growing. We don't have near enough food. And if we were to do 30, a huge batch, I think they would all starve to death. I'm actually going to be heading down to the planet's surface to some of these abandoned cities and colonies that they had tried to start up here to see if I could find some ancient food. It doesn't even matter if it's expired, although I'd say the vacuum and the cold would keep it pretty preserved for the most part. Really, we're just looking for nutrition, and I think one of these old ancient cities might have something here. I began scouring throughout the entire place, looking for any and all nutritious items, even some frozen old hydroponic potatoes, or maybe some dead animals, or if things get real bad, I suppose we could use the corpses of old ancient humans who tried to settle here. I don't know. While searching for food, one thing I found was a container of Archotech fragments. Hard to say how and why they had these, but I think I'll be taking them back home with me to their rightful place. I would also end up finding some survival meals. Yes, again, they're extremely old, but these, even if they were left to bake in the sun for 10 million years, I think they'd still be edible. I also found some insectoid hives, and they were none too happy with my presence, and they were far too stupid to try to reason with, so of course I killed them. This is worth mentioning because these hives had plenty of jelly. I would kill as many insects as I could, destroy as many hives, and collect as much jelly as possible. Eventually, I was pretty content with all the food I'd found. I would also then begin going around to some of these old cryosleep pods, deconstructing them for their steel and uranium, some items we would find useful. Occasionally, there were living people inside, and they looked quite shocked to see an Archotech in the flesh. I didn't speak to them because I hate them. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's go home and start unloading everything that we'd brought back. It wasn't much, but it should be good enough for a short period of time until we can start upping our growing production of berries and other crops to continue feeding them. As we were loading up the growth vats with some nutrition, though, I realized that we were running low on storage, which was perfect for our new large room here, as we had plenty of space for some vac-stone shelves to contain all our new items, as well as any future ones. We'll also be storing our food in here for obvious reasons. It's much more convenient to load up the growing vats when the food is right next to them. And because of that, we're going to be building some artificial ecosystems to go about very quickly growing simple crops like rice. It's already an extremely fast-growing crop, but inside these ecosystems it has an increase of up to 600%. Plant it in the morning, and by nighttime you have plenty of rice to stuff into these little bubblegum babies. Since we also found plenty of Archotech fragments, we can build ourselves a proper workbench where we can create weapons and armor and other devices of my people. And more importantly, we could create ourselves up to 4 replicators. Now, these might seem like odd little weird devices that don't really do much, but on the contrary, my friends, these replicators every few days will actually make more fragments for us, and with enough time, we'll have enough to increase their size, thus giving us more. I think you see where I'm going with this. Perhaps once we've really gotten our repopulation efforts off the ground, we might be able to colonize more asteroids with our folks. Or maybe even the world, terraforming it into our image, using our fragments to build more of our technology and really rebuilding Archotech society. Let me know what you think about that. Since it won't be long before our little vat-grown friendos are ready to come out, I think it's time for us to build a proper dining room, or at the very least a meeting spot, since we really don't have to eat all that often, somewhere we can socialize. But as I was mining out this area, we ended up having our little clone friendos be born. Oh, huzzah! Wait a minute. Ooh, they're still babies. They're half-baked. Ugh. Put them back in there and let them grow a little longer. Still exciting, though, but don't you dare come out of your test tube until you're ready. 6 foot tall and able to speak, you little dummy. If you can't hold your head up and walk around, I don't want you. Anyway, let's get back to working on that meeting/dining room area. Now, it was at this point I actually started ripping up all of the vac-stone flooring and things like that. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't really like the idea of using vac-stone for our floor and furniture. Now, in this case, I'm still using it for furniture, but for the floor, I am going to be going for a very natural forest look. We terraformed the entire asteroid. Why would we cover up such beauty after so much work? And you know what? Initially, I wasn't so sure about it, but I think it's really growing on me. I love having a natural look like this, not only because it just looks nice and we terraformed the asteroid, but Archotechs are known for being the seeders of the universe and terraformers. This makes the most sense, more so than vac-stone for sure, but also more so than this complex technological marvel floor. Well, at least that's how I feel about it. So much so that I actually started doing this on the entire asteroid in every single room, and I started trying to ensure that we have more grass, more vegetation overall with bushes and trees, and just a bit more nature in general. Obviously, I would love to hear your opinions on the matter, but I think you'd probably agree with me that this is pretty fitting. Also, in my opinion, it is much cheaper, as we don't have to waste any Archotech fragments on Archotech flooring, and we don't have to waste steel on steel flooring, blah blah blah, you understand. As time continued to pass and I watched the vegetation on the asteroid grow, I also witnessed our clones growing to their full and complete size. It won't be long now before they're fully grown and ready, but I've been wrestling with a bit of a conundrum. We're going to have an Archotech army of clones, but how are we going to transport them around? Well, we had recently overheard some of the Traders Guild in orbit talking about a crashed grav ship. A grav ship is some pathetic human attempt to mimic Archotech technology. Although it could be quite useful for us, so I decided to head down there to grab the engine for myself. One little hiccup, though, is the fact that it is protected by a gigantic mass of mechanoids. No wonder the humans were too afraid to come here. I suppose I should be afraid. Oh, you already know. This is normally the part where I'll do some type of montage of me killing all these scythers and then ultimately making my way towards the War Queen, slaughtering them, if you could even call it that, with these mechanical beings, but unfortunately there's not a lot of sound since we're in a vacuum, so I've decided to narrate over it. I hope that's okay. As you can see, we killed them all. Looks like this piece of junk is ours now. And it is, yes, a piece of junk in comparison to my vast knowledge, but it's the best that we currently have and could make for a fine vessel to transport our new populace. The only issue is I didn't terraform this whole damn rock just so I could start building a grav ship on it and make everything super ugly. So I've actually decided to expand the asteroid. Don't ask me how I done it. A little bit of Archotech magic. Regardless though, this new portion of the asteroid would be the perfect place for us to go about building a grav ship that's out of the way of our current dwellings where we like to walk, where Barry likes to nap, stuff like that. But then we had our first batch of clones. I must say, it was extremely odd, yet refreshing to see them all here. I hadn't seen another of my kind in eons. You handsome little devils, I am extremely excited to be rebuilding the population with you. It was like looking in a mirror. Probably just because they're younger versions of me, though. Well, Barry, old pal, now we have a lot of friends to communicate with and to have a grand old time with and to maybe take over the universe with. I will say they're a bit skinnier than I imagined. Perhaps it's because they had a bit of bio-starvation in the first few years of life inside their tanks, but nevertheless they are grand, perfect beings like myself, regardless if they're a bit petite. I will say, though, we need to give them some proper names, and thanks to my wonderful patrons, I was able to do so relatively easily. Now then, we need to get them acquainted with their new home here in the skies and in the heavens, and we also need to educate them about what they are and where they come from. We don't need them petting Barry on the head, not realizing they have a godlike body, and accidentally crushing her to death. That would be the least of our problems, to be honest with you, given that there's 11 of us, soon to be 41 of us. That's right, it's finally time for us to really create our Archotech army, as we are going to be growing 30, yes you heard me correctly, 30 more clones, an entire full batch. Since we need to ensure that we can keep them all fed and we don't need them dying of bio-starvation and malnutrition, we are going to be mining out another large section of the asteroid. This is going to be our growing zone for our clone batches, but before we get to that, look how industrious we are now. I thought my work speed was incredible when there was only one of me, but when there was 11, oh my god, we could really move mountains literally within a few minutes. Imagine once we have an entire army what we'll be capable of. I actually think we might have a chance at terraforming the entire planet just with more people. Speaking of which, let's get our great big rice farm going with these artificial ecosystems. That way we can ensure the rest of us don't die of starvation, as mentioned previously. Although I did notice a small issue after building all these. It seems we're having some power problems. Up until this point, we haven't really had any problems with generating electricity, but since we're using human designs for solar panels and things like that, I think it's time we ditch those primitive ways of creating power and we use an ancient one of my people's. This, my friends, is a violence generator. Essentially, to summarize for your pitiful human minds, it takes people's souls and psychic energy from their corpses and converts that into electricity. I'd love to explain it to you further in detail, but your pathetic little body couldn't live for 1,000,000 years for me to take the time to try to make you understand it, and I could explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you, you poor simple organism. Let me try simplifying it for you. No souls absorbed. Machine gods hungry. We bring human corpses to machine. Now machine gods full, not hungry anymore. Make electricity. Does that make sense? Now then, we have the electricity, we have all the food growing, and we have our batch of clones growing. I think it's time that we convert the entire asteroid into a proper home, not only for me, myself, Barry, and our android Brian, as well as the other 10 clones, but for every clone that is growing and every clone that will be growing in the very near future. We have to ensure that this place can house all of us, which is a pretty big ask for a little rock floating around. I eventually may start terraforming some others, or, as previously mentioned, the entire planet would be pretty cool. Speak of the devil, our little clones are babies now. They sure are growing fast. Probably helps that we're feeding them properly this time. It won't be long at all before they're full grown. Now, touching back on what I was speaking on a moment ago about terraforming more asteroids or possibly the planet, not to beat a dead horse, I've brought this up several times throughout the video already, but I'm not exactly sure what direction I would like to take this series and what I'd actually like to do with our army. I think I'd like a few opinions or suggestions from you guys, if you'd be so kind. I have this idea of possibly having the Archotechs terraform all the asteroids around the planet, terraform the planet itself at some point, and perhaps we Archotechs could live in the heavens on the asteroids, and we could have our society here while we seed the planet with our own creations. Let me know what you think, though. It would appear that I've been yapping for several days on end, and our batch of clones is finally finished. Again, being named after my amazing patrons. Now, something I forgot to mention, and I notice now editing back, I forgot to add in this clip here of me creating weapons for our proper army. Each and every single clone that I have created will now be carrying their own Archotech SMG, a bit weaker than my LMG from ancient times, many years ago. But you can't beat the classics, as they say, and I think that these SMGs will be good enough for our plans. Whatever those plans may entail, whether we're going to build a society here, whether we conquer the entire universe, or maybe next episode we start clearing out all the filthy, pesky human traitors in orbit around the planet to send a bit of a message. Death and destruction is definitely an easy possibility for us all. But do we use our godlike abilities for good or for bad? Only time shall tell, and I'm sure you people will let me know what you think about that, as I've asked you a few times throughout this video. Again, not to beat a dead horse. But will we live up to the standards that humans seem to have for Archotechs in legends and in history? Or will we be sick of them abusing our tales and create our own story? We may end up creating our own peaceful paradise, but as you can see, some humans will have to die in the process of building that either way, I'd say. To cook an omelet, you have to break a few eggs, and in terms of a universal scale, you have to clear out a few lesser life forms. And in doing so, if you end up being able to generate power from collecting their souls and psychic energy, why the hell not, am I right? That was a small sample of our army's fighting capabilities, by the way. Throughout this video, though, we have cloned, grown, and created the greatest army known to the universe in eons. I suppose now the only question is, what do we do with it? I look forward to us all finding out together. Hello there, I am an Archotech, but you could probably already tell, or maybe you've already met me before. Howdy, either way. Let me introduce you to my friends. This is Brian. She is my medical android. This is my pet and best friend, Barry the Bluebird. And these? These are my children. Kind of. Not really. They're actually all carbon copy clones of me who are about half my age. But I have stepped up as their papa. And together with my clone army, we are rebuilding an Archotech paradise here in the heavens. Terraforming an asteroid to become our base of operations, our cloning facility, our growing zone, and most importantly, our own little slice of heaven for our home. But the only thing is, this is only one asteroid. Orbiting this vac world are many, which means not only do we have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of different asteroids to terraform and to claim as our homes. That being said, this raises the question, how do we get to all of them? I'm glad you asked. Last episode, we found ourselves a grav engine crashed on the planet. And we are going to be using that engine to go about building our own Archotech ship. Now, I will say, in the previous episodes of Terraforming the Asteroid and whatnot, we have been going for a very beautiful, natural feeling with grass and trees and just every little bit and bob of nature we could cram in. However, for our ship, we are going with a proper Archotech technology design. In a nice spherical shape with an engine on each side, an advanced GravTech engine, I might add, with a little bit of Archotech flair, allowing us to move in any direction that we so choose with ease. Quite sophisticated and high-tech, of course. Not only will we be traveling around in this ship, but we are going to be using it specifically to terraform. You could think of it as a ship to seed the world, the galaxy, asteroids, and anything else we so choose, bringing life to dead places. And with that being said, if you guys want to give it a name, be sure to let me know. It's something of a Noah's Ark kind of thing, so something along those lines if you like, but whatever you so choose. We were sure to make sure that the ship would have a gigantic capacity, not only to contain our entire army, and myself of course, but as well as any other creatures that we may need to board it and storage and things like that. Speaking of which, we have a lot of devices that we need to build if we actually plan on terraforming these places, and we're going to be storing them on the ship. We're going to be building some atmospheric projectors, but these are not like the traditional ones that we've seen throughout this series thus far. Using my superior Archotech intelligence, I've replaced the component inside these of grav cores with some Archotech fragments. That way we don't have to go searching for grav cores, and they'll be much easier to create for us as we have plenty of replicators already making fragments for us. Essentially, the crux of what I'm getting at here is that with enough time for us to replicate more fragments and just a bit more time to go about installing these on the ship and traveling with our new vessel along with all of these projectors, we could, theoretically, terraform the entire universe. Again though, baby steps first and foremost. We need to go about terraforming all the natural satellites in orbit here. But first, before we depart, I must say my goodbyes to Barry. Barry, Papa loves you. No, Barry, I promise I won't take that long this time, for real. Yes, Pinky, swear you don't even have pinkies. Just make sure you're taking good care of Papa's armor, okay? Alrighty then, we are off on our first departure. I was very excited to show you the animation taking off for our new ship, but unfortunately for some reason it was bugged and it just showed me the ship heading to the next asteroid. But you do get this cool shot of it landing, which also allows you to see our dynamic engine setup, allowing us to move any which way. Ah, finally, a whole new world. And by world, of course, I mean a barren rock with no life at all. Well, actually, there was some life, it looks like. It seems that some ancient person had the exact same idea that we did, as there's already an atmospheric projector here, surrounded by Archotech power cells. Although quite small and primitive put together, I would say that these were ancient humans commandeering our technology. Either way, it'll come in quite handy. Let's see. Yep, all we gotta do is just charge it right up. There we go. We are good. Though we had properly packed our own projectors, this human-made one still seems to function quite well at full power and actually already encompasses a decent-sized chunk of the asteroid. With that, adding in a few more of our own, we should be able to encompass the entire thing, taking those very first crucial steps of turning this rock house into a rock home. Slowly, very slowly, over time. After several days, we finally got some decent growth of not only our soil, but also some vegetation, with that being grass and, well, some grass. Typical for the human design of the projectors, but on the opposite side of the asteroid, with the ones that we use fragments instead of grav cores, I noticed something special was growing. We had a couple of Archean trees. It would seem that using our own ancient technology instead of grav cores has caused them to sprout, giving this asteroid not only a beautiful terraformed soil and other vegetation, but adding in our own godlike technological flair. And also, of course, the trees help us out with terraforming, making the process much faster and much smoother. There was one tiny little issue, though. The terraforming process, as mentioned several times, takes a very long time. Me, an ancient godlike being, I didn't mind. My clones, on the other hand, were getting a bit restless, were wrestling with one another. I was afraid that their combat might destroy the entire place. I think it's time we move on. Not to worry though, as I'm leaving a team of 5 clones behind to ensure the growth and life of this place is consistent and on track and on pace with the other asteroids that will be terraforming, ensuring its ample care to them, the new gods of this asteroid, one might even say. Tribespeople would probably look at this as some form of religious text in a few million years. Enough about that though, let us continue our seeding efforts as we move on to our next barren place. Now some of you might be wondering how we're doing this terraforming. Sure, we're using the projectors that we created to make an atmosphere around these asteroids, but how are we keeping them powered 24/7? Well, I'm glad you asked, because at the center, the very heart of every one of these asteroid worlds, we are going to be building a core to go about powering it. Using an ancient design and blueprint of Archotech power cells that some of you might be familiar with. They generate power through technology and means that would be beyond your comprehension, I'm afraid. But thanks to their resistance and the atmosphere around these places now, they are extremely resistant to solar flares, and there's no need for batteries since they're always generating power. And the best part? They're completely free of charge. Well, kinda. We do have to wait for our replicators to create fragments in masses that we can use to construct them, but other than that, free of charge. Once the power cells are in place, the rest is simple. We just set up all of our atmospheric projectors encompassing the entire atmosphere, as you've seen several times over, and then we simply sit back and wait. Now, I realize it would be incredibly boring and also impractical for every asteroid to be a temperate forest biome, so that's why we're going to be doing different biomes. This one in particular is actually going to be a desert, with very few little areas of actual soil where vegetation could grow, mostly being sand, of course. And the projectors of this asteroid are actually using a much higher amount of power, and the reason being for that is because they're generating much more heat. With the average temperature of this asteroid being 122 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't know what that is for the rest of the world, but for the other asteroids we've built thus far being temperate forests, they're around about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. You see what I'm saying, with the reason they're using more power. We have been here for a very, very long time though, so how about we check back in on our previous asteroid? Oh yeah, now we're talking a great big beautiful green jewel in orbit, with what appears to be lush and vibrant vegetation life around every single corner. That was extremely quick. I'm sure we owe a lot of it to the rich soil created by our Archean trees as well. Not to get all biblical and all that, I know I mentioned Noah's Ark earlier with the ship, but it is hard not to make comparisons to these beautiful places like this and like Eden and stuff like that with this almost godlike just beauty to these asteroids terraformed. Just in my opinion, I genuinely love how they look, and I don't know, it gives me a nice, cozy, comfortable feeling. But you know what doesn't? Humans. Filthy humans. Especially the ones that have come to disgrace our lovely main asteroid base with their disgusting feet, corrupting the land itself with their chaotic presence. The issue here is none of our clones are here to protect protect us. Barry rushed inside to hide away from the attackers, finding a safe spot to bunker down, all while our loyal Brian would heed the call. She wouldn't be able to fit inside the armor, but our Devastator rifle fit her hand quite nicely. Such ungrateful, blasphemous creatures. You've come to meet your creator. Very well. Meet him then. I bet you didn't know that Brian was such a cold-ass motherfucker. Yeah, neither did I. Indeed, though, it would seem that he has stepped up to the plate to not only be the caretaker of our main asteroid in our absence, but also its defender. Such a sweet young lass. We are going to be using all those corpses for power, by the way. So I suppose it wasn't all bad. I mean, sure, they probably scared Barry a little bit, but now they're all in hell. Checking back in on our second new asteroid that we've been terraforming, our desert biome asteroid. It is now complete for the most part, except for a few areas here and there, and we could do with a bit more vegetation. So, of course, I am going to be leaving behind yet another team of 5 of my clones to be its caretakers, protectors, and its guards, ruling over it however they see fit. And also however I see fit. That being said, we'll be moving on to our third and final asteroid, only for this episode, of course. If you folks want to see me continue terraforming these asteroids, and inevitably the planet as a whole, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and be sure to continue liking the videos. It really does let me know. For realsies. Obviously, to start us off, we are digging to the core of the asteroid, where we are once again going to be building our power source. We build these in the core as well, I forgot to mention earlier. That way they're protected from any orbital debris and also, of course, attacks. Because without the power core in the middle, if these were to be destroyed, there would be no more life on the asteroid, nor an atmosphere. And as you could probably guess, the atmosphere is pretty darn important for terraforming. That's actually the bread and butter, the whole point, the backbone, if you will. As you can see, this is much of the same, and it does take a very long time. You've seen me terraform these over and over. Let's spice it up a bit. I know, perhaps you'd like to see how I clean up these ancient mining charges. Well, I just kind of stack them up and then, I shoot them. That's about it. You're right, that's boring. How about I show you how we get rid of the ancient mechanoid chunks? We just kind of shoot them. I see the problem here. Well, I understand that you fine folks in the audience are not an Archotech like we here in my clones, and you don't have all the time in the universe, so how about I just speed things up for you? From an old, cold, gray rock with no grass at all to a gray, brownish-looking rock with a little bit of grass. This particular asteroid is going to be one with a glow forest biome, but there's one little issue with that. As you probably could guess, the glow forest never has any sunlight. This asteroid has a lot, and that means that all the vegetation and fungi is dying. Not to worry though, we didn't come all this way and work our asses off just to watch our creations die off and putter out like the last gleaming star in the universe. We're gonna build a roof over top of all of it, that way they don't have to look at the sun. You're welcome, mushrooms. And of course, to get us that authentic glow forest effect, we're also building some large smoke vents that are going to be pumping this type of acidic smoke in ash into the atmosphere, and thus clouding up the skies even more so, just like you'd find on any planet with this type of biome. Truly now an authentic biome for all the biofluorescent fungi, as well as other different types of life to grow and not only grow, but to thrive as well. This biome is almost definitely the most sophisticated and complex that we've created thus far, a true testament to how far we've come, but also just a small stepping stone in the much larger path of terraforming the entire planet, of course. Which also brings me to my next point. We don't just want to create these paradises in the heavens for no reason. We want to populate them and turn them into true paradises for some of the Archotech's less homicidal creations. Sanctuaries for the more benign and docile beautiful creatures of the universe, like different animals, passive animals that is, not humans. And in doing so, that only increases the fact that our asteroids are becoming smaller ingredients for a much larger terraforming project planet-side, taking the vegetation, the soil, the animals that we're building up here down to the surface eventually, to terraform everything. You've probably already guessed that that's what I'm trying to do, but just in case I didn't make it clear enough, we are basically building large puzzle pieces in the sky to put together a big puzzle on the planet. Before we go out to find this wildlife to seed our puzzle pieces, though, we are going to be leaving behind yet another clone team that will live here and serve as its gods, protectors, yada yada. You already know the drill by this point. And then we set out for our animals. But you might be saying, Rat Papa, where are you going to find animals? This is a vac world. As you've already said, there's nothing on the surface but death and decay. Well, you're right, my friends. But these orbital traders in, well, orbit tend to sell animals quite frequently. I bet they could help us out with that. Just one little issue. I didn't bring any money with me. Oh, shoot. I guess we'll just have to save all these animals and take them by force. We broke open their doors and started going room to room, but luckily they would come to us, making a great big strawberry jam pie right in the hallway. Then, now that they're all dead, I suppose it's time that we saved some animals. We blasted and obliterated our way through the station, and at first I thought, well, we might have to go to a different one. These folks clearly don't have animals, until I finally found some. Yes, come, you beautiful creatures, come, let us get aboard the ship. They were making their way there, and I was so surprised they were this intelligent. It turns out they were just really scared, and they ran out the airlock. We're gonna need to rescue them before they die. And so we would. At least most of them. Unfortunately, some of them may or may not have suffocated. But not really much we could do about that, I'm afraid. We didn't put them there in the first place, so I blame the filthy humans. Besides, we are the saviors of these beautiful creatures, bringing them to their new home. The beavers shall have lush, large trees to consume, and the deer will have more berries and grass than any deer could ever hope to have, all without the threat of predators. No longer will you be oppressed and forced to live in small steel cages, my friends. You are the Lord's creatures, and you shall be treated as such. The deer and beavers shall live here on the first asteroid that we terraformed this episode, with it being our beautiful temperate forest, vibrant and full of food. Moving right along, we're going to be bringing our bullfrogs to our desert asteroid biome. I think they'll find it much more comfortable here, having the sun helping them process calcium and make vitamin C inside their bodies, instead of the ashy and dusty glow forest without any light. They too will have plenty of food, with it mostly being some agave, I suppose, if things get really bad for them, but a diet of some small insects inside the sandy soil. Last but not least, back at our main asteroid that we've been living on, we are going to have a crow sanctuary. Really not just for crows, as we're going to have all avians here, but since they're currently some of the only ones we have, a crow sanctuary. As well as Barry, of course, who appears to be making some friends. The little lass was tickled plum pink to finally have some friends that weren't godlike Archotech creatures and kinda looked like her. I'm happy for her. Now you might be saying, you've got all these asteroids with different biomes that you're using as animal sanctuaries, but what about the Glow Forest asteroid? You haven't put any animals there. No. And we don't plan on it either. For one, as I previously touched on, I kinda think it would be cruel to put animals here, because there's no sunlight and all they'd really have to eat is fungi and maybe some of the grass, I suppose, or the psychedelic mushrooms, but that wouldn't be humane. So we're actually going to be using it for a more industrial purpose. We're going to be mining out a large section of the asteroid to turn into a great big workshop. Specifically, this workshop is going to be used for storage. But what are we going to be storing here, and what are we going to be working on here? We are going to be filling this place chock full to the absolute brim with medium and large replicators. The reason that we're doing this is because we need a hub, a factory, somewhere to produce Archotech fragments and Archotech masses. And I apologize, I know I'm always saying the word Archotech throughout these videos, and specifically in this one a lot more than usual, but the masses and the fragments are the two main building blocks and resources that we are using to build Archotech. From lights to heaters to other different types of technology that we're putting on these asteroids and inside these bases that I haven't really went over in detail. The heaters are helping keep them warm, and especially on the inside of the asteroid bases, as well as the lights keeping everything lit and bright for our creatures and for our people. The small and medium-sized replicators actually create the fragment, which is probably the most common resource that we're actually using to create things, and then the larger ones create the masses, a little bit less common, but also still needed and necessary. Again, not to come up with some Archotech religion mumbo-jumbo for tribes people, but imagine you're a tribes person on the planet and you need it simplified for you. You could think of this as where your gods store their building blocks of the universe, protons, neutrons, stuff like that. But of course, in this case, we know that it's just Archotech fragments and masses. Ensuring that we have an efficient and pretty speedy production of these two things is also going to be absolutely crucial for eventually terraforming the planet as a whole. I know that's what we're kind of building up to here, and I've talked about it a lot, but it takes a lot, and I really do mean a lot, of prep work to terraform a planet. You've seen how long it takes us to do one asteroid after all, and we are getting pretty close to being able to accomplish that goal, my friends. But I suppose that'll be next time. See you later. Hello, I am an Archotech. You probably already knew that, but just in case you didn't. This is Berry the Bluebird. She's not only my pet, she's actually my bestest friend and my greatest ally. This is my flock of crows on my terraformed asteroid home, or maybe I should say murder of crows. No, but really, they eat the corpses that we're using to generate power. Don't worry though, they're a bunch of good boys and girls, aren't you? Yes, you are. This is my army of clones of myself. They too are Archotechs because, well, they're my clones like I mentioned. This is only a small fraction of them. If you're already acquainted with all this, you also are probably sick of hearing me talk about this, but for any newcomers, this is my terraformed asteroid home that I was mentioning a moment ago. But we don't just live here, we also live here. And, we also live here. Oh, and, we live here, too. These asteroids not only will be serving as our permanent homes once we terraform the planet, but they currently are also going to be animal and just life sanctuaries for living organisms, as well as vegetation and things like that, to help us terraform the planet. Speaking of which, we have many, many, many more asteroids in orbit around the planet to turn into our own paradises, creating a godlike heavens for all of the Archotechs. That way the folks that we end up putting on the planet can look up above at their creators. However, that is not going to be our main focus today, as that's something we've been doing the last few episodes. Today, we are actually going to start on the terraforming process for the entire planet. Yes, indeed, an ambitious task, but we are going to do it. That being said, even though I'm a super intelligent god-like being, and I have all the time in the world, as they say, I suppose I should still get started ASAP, eh? We'll have the rest of our army bring over our terraforming ship, our little seeding vessel that has been changing every asteroid from a barren rock to a nice grassy rock with plenty of life. Take a good look, Barry, take it all in. That's right, soon that will be our new paradise. The entire thing. And you know what, little buddy? None of this would have been possible without you. What? You want to go down there? No, Barry, I hardly think it's safe. Fine. I guess I'll figure something out then, but only because I love you. Since Barry doesn't seem to be budging on this issue, I need to come up with some form of breathable atmosphere for her, and I don't think it'll be all that hard. We managed to terraform entire asteroids with a breathable atmosphere. What's one tiny one the size of a bird? And voila, I present to you a vac belt. Think of it like a tiny atmospheric projector that she can wear around her teeny bird body with a little bit of Archotech flair. I also threw in some actual shield protecting technology, that way she's protected from any physical weapons that may be fired in her direction for a brief time until we can locate the threat and promptly strangle them to death. Yes, Barry, technically we could have done this the whole time, but I was afraid you'd die. There, I said it. Sorry that I care about your well-being. Alright, everyone's ready, everyone aboard our ship, and let's head on down to the surface to start our grand terraforming process, which is almost definitely going to take quite some time. Because of that, we need to leave somebody in charge. So, while we're planetside, Brian is in charge of the cloning base asteroid, home. Just make sure you don't forget to feed the crows their daily supply of rotten corpses, Brian. Please. Please, God. Don't forget. Anywho, though, real quick before we go, we do want to give our seeding, terraforming Archotech ship a proper name, and we're actually going to be going with Archotech. Because, you know, you get it. An amazing suggestion, by the way, from our good friend Wawi42. I think the name really ties in those kind of biblical, Genesis, and also technological themes that we're kind of sticking with, and plus, of course, we've been carrying a bunch of one of each animal on it lately, so yeah, it makes sense. Alright, though, that's enough talk. Let's fly on down to the surface and get started on the real task at hand. I'm gonna level with you, I really didn't know where to land because, well, I didn't know where to start, but since the entire planet is barren, I guess anywhere's as good as it's gonna get. Upon this rock we shall build our utopia, our very own heaven. This world is a world littered by the ghost of what once was. But just like all parasites, the humans who lived here have left nothing but memories and pain behind. Today, nature and we reclaim what is rightfully ours. Looks like there's still geothermal activity here. Perhaps this will be easier than I thought. If used properly, we can trap the heat and gas they release into our artificial atmospheres, thus heating the planet and releasing any frozen ice within the soil. Still yet, this won't be exactly a cakewalk. Now don't get me wrong, I love our ship, but when my species seeded worlds eons ago, they used ships the size of small moons when terraforming. And their terraforming devices were as large as cities. I'm not saying it's impossible by any means, but maybe we're a little bit under-equipped. Then again, that's never stopped us before, so let's go ahead and just give it a shot, I suppose. We're actually going to be digging out a small mountain to turn into a source of power for our terraforming efforts here. Since we're going to be terraforming this entire map to start off, and it's much larger than any asteroid that we've terraformed so far, this is also going to be the largest power-generating mountain that we've ever created so far as well. Now with our power cells set up and also safe and sound under the overhead mountain from space debris, asteroids, as well as any solar flares or anything of that sort, let us now begin setting up our artificial atmospheric projectors. A bit hard to see, but we ended up placing down, I believe, 9 to maybe 12 of them, which finally would encompass the entirety of the map. basically using up what we had left of them. Not that that's an issue, we can always create more, but to just kinda show you how much this really takes. And because there's so many of them working 24/7 at full power capacity, we're really beginning to push the limits of just how much electricity we're generating. But that shouldn't really be an issue, as it is holding steady for now. And finally, we're beginning to see the first conversions of the vaxstone into soil. Truly and literally sowing the seeds of life back into this barren planet. And it looks like those geothermal vents are helping us easily raise the temperature. Thanks to this little convenience, it wouldn't take us long at all to start melting all the ice within the soil and all the snow atop the vaxstone. Finally, we can see the fruits of our labor beginning to blossom before our very eyes. Several days later, after finally having a breathable atmosphere with all the necessary gases for organic life, especially that of which that is trees and grass and things of that sort, they finally were sprouting quite well and beginning to spread all across the soil. It did also help things out quite a bit that many of our Archean trees were beginning to sprout as well with their own rich soil. Much better and much more fertile for life. Truly, this has already become our greatest creation and greatest achievement. Although, for it to finish terraforming, it is going to take a very, very long time. And as much as I'd like to just stand around and look at things, I'm afraid that we have more work to do. We are going to be heading back to the heavens and to our asteroids, but in our stead we'll be leaving behind yet another team of 5 of our clones to take care of the place and to protect it, of course. Why are we headed back to the asteroids already, you might ask? Well, as you well remember, I'm sure, we have all of our animals up here that once the planet is finished up terraforming, we need to bring them down so that they can live. Not only that, they don't need to survive, they need to thrive, breeding and populating the entire thing. So I want to be here once they're ready, and that way we can take them down. However, we also have a different type of life form that we've yet to seed and prep for its eventual thriving on the planet. So we're going to be doing that too. And to go about doing that, to start things off, we're going to be removing a gigantic chunk of the asteroid itself. Now, I know this is a little bit strange. Why would I be doing that? Well, you see, my friends, this particular creature must have water in order to survive. That's actually how it breathes. It doesn't need an atmosphere, it needs a bit of H2O. And so we're actually creating our very own lake. Now this is a great suggestion provided by our friend Yuyani_K, who had mentioned being able to create a great big lake on one of these asteroids. And of course, since we're using them basically as animal sanctuaries for our eventual takeover of the planet and our control of it, to seed it, blah 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 blah, everything I've been talking about this entire time, of course, for the past few episodes even, we are going to be putting fish here. Yeah, there was one tiny little problem that we ran into. The lake was completely frozen over, and I have no idea as to why this is, because we cranked up the power usage on our projectors to make sure that it was nice and steamy hot. 151 degrees Fahrenheit to be specific. So they shouldn't be frozen, and I don't know why they are, but whatever. Even with it frozen, we didn't seem to have any issues breaking the ice for a brief moment to go about seeding fish into the lake properly. Now they'll be able to swim around here and breed and up their population significantly before their inevitable departure back down to the planet's surface. Now you might be questioning, how did we seed fish into a lake without any fish to begin with? Well, fish are much simpler creatures than humans, and, well, it's a bit of an Archotech secrecy. Even if you could understand the complexities, if I told you, I would have to dissect your brain and smash it to ensure the technique and technology didn't fall into the wrong hands. So I'll keep it to myself. It would seem that most of the fish that we have in this lake are bass, so we'll need to try to get a variety in the very near future, but for now this is a good start. Some fish are better than no fish at all. Such a shame it's frozen. Barry was really looking forward to catching bass in her beak like Mother Nature intended. Perhaps another time, girl. For now, we really need to check back in on our terraforming efforts back on the planet's surface. Let's take a look, shall we? Whoa, would you look at that? Well, that was definitely much faster than we had anticipated. It looks like things are going well. Really well, actually. Lush, vibrant, open fields full of grass and bushes and brambles and even a bit of wild heel root. Oak and poplar trees standing tall, high above all the ancient wreckage, towering high above all of humanity's failures. The age of reclamation has finally begun, my friends. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I started out this series, and we had Barry and our Archotech, this was the ultimate goal after a while, and I seen how much you guys really liked it and really wanted me to try to terraform things like asteroids and planets, but I didn't actually know if this was going to be possible. And I'm very glad that it is. I think this is definitely one of the coolest things that we've ever done. With the entire map now a green jewel of terraform glory, you can actually see it from orbit. If you're looking close enough, that is. It's still a pretty small blotch overall, but nonetheless, an interesting factoid. And with that being said, we still have so much work ahead of us. It's time that we picked up the pace a bit, I think. Now that we finally have this area terraformed, we can finally start using some of the planet's other features to our advantage. Now that we know it's possible, we know that it's definitely possible on a full scale for the entire heavenly body. And this little project you see us constructing should be able to help us out with that. In the meantime, while our crew of Archotechs is throwing this together, we're going to be bringing the rest of the army down to help with the construction process. And along with them, we're also bringing all of our wildlife that we've collected so far. We can't read their minds, but I bet if we could, they would be tickled plum pink about their new home down here on the planet. I don't think they quite could understand all the effort and work that we put into it to make this even remotely possible, but that's okay though. We're not exactly doing it for their appreciation, now are we? We're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and for the love of the game. That's right, Barry, our own planet, finally! I suppose this is the first time you've stepped foot on a non-barren world since our original departure, eh? Ah, those were the days. If we'd never met back then, Barry, I probably would have enslaved that world and we never would have made it here. None of this would have been possible without you, my friend. And with that, we would finally finish our great, big Archotech terraforming machine. A proper terraforming machine, I might add. Though its size seems large, this isn't near what our people used when seeding worlds. It will still take a very long time, but speeding up the process nonetheless. This device gets its power from the planet's core, so powering up isn't an issue at all. We just sit back, watch, and wait. Thanks to the geothermal activity, we know that the core of the planet can be used for this purpose. If not, I don't know if any of this would have been possible. But who cares, because it is. Alright, let's see this puppy in action. There we are, let's see. Ah, yes, now we're talking. That is much faster. Though it's hardly even a fraction of the planet still. Patience, patience, my berry-loving feathered companion. All good things take time, and the best of things take the most time, little lassie. It would seem that our animals are beginning to leave the area in search of these new woodlands. Go forth and prosper, multiply, our friends. This is a world for all of us, so don't be shy. I look forward to the days of seeing them all travel in flocks and herds across the entire planet. Though I will say we could do with some predatory animals. We have far too many herbivores, and I'd hate to see overpopulation destroy all the vegetation we've worked so desperately to grow. We also should attempt to begin our work of growing our own humans and/or humanoids. I think I know exactly where to find all of these critters that we need. Yep, That's right. It's time for us to attack these orbital traders once more. We need to clear out all these humans anyway, so killing two birds with one stone. Besides, we can't have all these filthy pieces of trash floating around in orbit above our new heavenly paradise, our utopia. Look at all the garbage and wreckage that lay left on the planet's surface when they couldn't even manage to colonize it properly. No, I'm afraid that the trash must be taken care of ahead of time. These greedy little bastards only care about money and power, and they don't care how they have to obtain it, like putting some poor foxes and hares in a large pen in outer space to be sold to the highest bidder. Absolutely disgusting. Worry not, my furry friends, you are in good hands now. You there, sir, you technically should be executed, but you and your lady friend here are in luck. Mostly because I completely forgot to set some of our weapons to kill and they were in their toxin mode. So, I suppose you two will have to do for our humans on the planet. Oh, come now, try not to look so glum, being chosen to be the new Adam and Eve subjects for an entire planet. This is the greatest honor of your lives. Your descendants will populate this entire star system at some point. It's just such a shame that you two aren't worthy enough to even be around when your children will be born. Oh. You'll see what I'm talking about. For now, we're going to be taking them back to our cloning asteroid, our main home base. I think you could probably see where I'm going with this. Brian is going to be extracting DNA from them both. And in the meantime, while she's doing this, we are going to continue our search for more animals and continue eradicating the orbital traders. Now then, back to the cloning process. As you could guess, the reason we're extracting DNA from these two humans instead of using them as our actual Adam and Eve subjects is we want to start over with a clean slate. And these two are also horrible and corrupted people. Not only that, though, even if they weren't, they have far too much knowledge about the universe. Can't exactly be cavemen if you've already traveled to the stars, now can you? Before we actually begin the cloning process of our first two humans, though, we will await the orders of the Archotech army. We need to make sure that everything is done perfectly down to the finest of details. As for Mama and Papa here, or should we say Adam and Eve, we're going to be stuffing them into some cryopods, frozen in stasis forevermore. Just really, I guess, in case we ever need them for anything, but we don't really ever plan to take them out. At least not anytime soon. Although we will have them here in case their clone babies end up dying or mutating or something and we need to scrape a few more hair follicles off of their frozen bodies. Well, everything is prepared for the human population. Perhaps we should check back in on how things are going with the rest of the army with capturing animals as well as killing off the traders. It would seem that we've acquired a variety of different types of herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores, with many of them including, but not limited to, grizzly bears, the foxes that we previously had, we found some more of them, elks and deer and geese and raccoons, and a lot of other different types of animals. Some of our more passive animals ended up getting eaten in transit and never made it off the ship, but that is the circle of life, I'm afraid. Now, you might be wondering how it went with eradicating the orbital traders. Well, It went pretty good, I'd say. Well, in the amount of time it took us to rescue a lot of those critters, as well as begin taking out most of the orbital traders and decommissioning, quote-unquote, their space stations, our terraforming machine has done a lot of work. We're actually making a decent bit of progress, as you can see. Still, of course, far from being a fraction of the entire planet, but this is a real start. A great green jewel on the surface. And remember how I said earlier you could actually see our terraforming progress from orbit? Well, I wasn't just bullshitting you. You can see it a lot better now, even from our cloning home base asteroid. Take a look at that. As Brian gazes down at her master's hard work. this reminds me of some beautiful, amazing artwork that I recently saw. Posted on Reddit by our good friend Ferrelata, who is also one of my wonderful patrons, I might add. I absolutely love this, okay? I love fan art, and in particular, this one is just chef's kiss, right? I'm sorry, I know I've broken the fourth wall far too many times in this episode, but I just had to show this off. I hope you don't mind me showing it because you did post it on Reddit and then told me that you created it, so I assumed you wouldn't mind, of course. I just love the Dr. Manhattan vibes from, like, The Watchmen. I assume maybe, I don't know if that's what you're going for, but that's what it gives me. I've seen some people on Reddit saying that as well. Just looking down at the barren rock and out into the stars, and then, of course, we have little Barry here. It's just absolutely amazing. If any of you guys have fan art, feel free to post them and just let me know, and I can show them off in videos, the community tab, wherever you guys want. Or if you want to email them to me, or just however you want to send them to me. I love fan art, and I'm more than happy to show it off anytime. Thanks again, and I love you guys. Now, back to the actual video. Well, Barry, my friend, the terraforming process will take centuries at the very least, and unlike us, your small avian body won't last that long. So because of that, I'll need you to enter cryosleep. Is that okay, buddy? What? No, obviously we won't crash this time, Barry. There's not even a ship. Well, okay, yeah, fair point. I did say that last time, too, but look, I promise you everything is going to be A-okay. I love you too, buddy. Since we're going to put Barry into cryosleep until the planet is finished terraforming, that way we have a utopia worthy of our feathered friend, we are going to be building a proper one under the mountain here. That way we can ensure Barry's safety at all times. Centuries and eons and time passing like that, as you might imagine, a lot can happen. We could be invaded by another sentient species like ourselves. Highly unlikely, but possible. All right, my fearless companion. Your sleeping chambers await you. I'm getting them all cooled off, and don't you worry. I'm gonna keep a good eye on you, and I promise that when you wake up, I promise you we will have conjured up a perfect planet that is truly worthy of the hallowed feathered feet that you walk on. I'm going to miss you while you're in there. Hello, I am an Archotech, but you already knew that, didn't you? This here is my best friend, Barry the Bluebird. No, she's not the cryosleep casket, she's inside the cryosleep casket. We recently put her on ice, and the reason for that is because we're taking on a very special project, one that is going to take eons. Some of you may know, and others may not, but in recent episodes we have claimed this desolate vac world as our own. Not only that, but we've also began terraforming it. And since we last spoke, we've actually made some pretty significant progress in that front, expanding out a gigantic egg-shaped area of mostly temperate forest, but also some rainforest, deserts, and even a little bit of glow forest, as well as a few other biomes, of course. We are all about diversity, and truly there is nothing more diverse than biodiversity. But, nevertheless, I digress. Anywho, you and I have a lot of work to do today. We need to get this planet in tip-top shape. That way we can hurry up and wake Barry back up. I miss her dearly. While we're going about terraforming, we are actually going to be leaving our initial landing spot here and our initial seeding of this world. That way we can build something pretty significant. Before we go though, we need to ensure that this area is well protected, and I mean more so than ever. For the first time since the very beginning of this series for myself, we are actually going to be building some Archotech power armor. My clones Leldi and Sarek shall have the great honor of being the legendary honor guards of our Genesis initial landing area here. I'm going to call it Genesis for significant purposes, as well as Barry's tomb. Since our recent, genocide of humans around the planet in orbit. There shouldn't really be any issue like an attack, but you never know, there could be some hiding out somewhere. Regardless of what comes, though, with this new armor, Leldy and Sarek should be able to handle just about anything, freeing us up to go on a bit of a journey just to the north. We're going to be heading to a beautiful spot in the newly terraformed grasslands. One, because we want to check out some of this progress. And two, we have a very special construction project in mind. It would seem, since this area is newly terraformed, as mentioned, it is still quite cold here, but it will be getting warmer day by day. And the vegetation should get pretty incredibly vibrant before too awful long. Regardless, though, the grasslands are flat plains perfect for building. Building cities, that is. Yes, indeed, you heard me correctly. We are going to be building our very first Archotech city. Now, I know what you're saying, but Rat Daddy, didn't you say that all your Archotechs were basically going to be gods of this planet living in the heavens on newly terraformed asteroids with artificial atmospheres? Yes, I did say that, and yes, they are still going to be doing that. But this city is going to be something of a ground base, of course. A safe place for us to come and observe the planet as it is being terraformed, as well as letting all the species evolve and grow, just somewhere we can have to ourselves while everything is going on without interfering or intruding on them. Also, if something goes wrong on the planet, say like a runaway greenhouse effect, and the entire thing turns into a bubbling cesspool of lava, or the complete opposite, a frozen hell once more, but in a different sense, we will have a safe place to try to fix things. And of course we'll also be using it for a variety of other purposes, but you don't want to hear about all that right now. You're probably wondering to yourself how the hell we plan on protecting this place, especially if we're not going to be here at all times. Well, that's where a little bit of archotechnology comes in handy. These, my friends, are psychic emanators. Let me ask you, are you feeling aggressive or hostile at the moment? I didn't think so. These let out psychic waves to the nearby area, encompassing basically the entire map, and any organic creature within their radius will be subdued psychologically. Basically, they make you happy and not aggressive. The alternative was gigantic Archotech Gauss cannons, which, yes, would have been completely badass, but once our evolving species find this place and want to communicate with us, we don't want them to feel intimidated. Another primary use of our city is going to be one great big city-sized storage facility for all of our Archotech masses and fragments. God only knows what would happen if these little bad boys fell into the wrong hands, so we're going to be keeping them all here. Well, at least the ones that are planet-side, that is. We're also going to be storing a plethora of different advanced technologies like Archotech uplinks, Archotech shield generators, as well as Archotech power generators, some different unstable technologies that we'll be able to experiment with and be able to test out here in a safe place. You know, like if a gigantic nuclear explosion happens, it'll be contained within the confines of one of these walls. We'll also be storing large data servers with all the information about who we are and how to reach us in the heavens. That way, once our creations evolve and grow enough to find this information, they'll also have the technology to reach the stars and us themselves. Finally, becoming one with their gods. That is our mission for them, to reach perfection. But there's a new technology I've yet to show you that we're housing here. These are our teleporting pads. If we're going to have a heavens in orbit around the planet, we need a quick and easy way to get there. And as much as I love our ship, it's not exactly the fastest method. Allow me to demonstrate. Using this new technology, we could teleport ourselves or our clones or anyone we so choose anywhere on the planet, in orbit around the planet, or I think you get the gist. I think it goes without saying, but of course, I'll say it anyway, that this technology can help us in a plethora of different ways. If one of our asteroids is under attack, for example, by other sentient cosmic beings like ourselves, we could easily go there and fight them. We could teleport any of our evolving species anywhere we so choose. Maybe there's a gigantic rock slide about to kill one of our newly founded humans and we want to rescue them. The possibilities are endless. Those of you with a keen eye might have noticed the skull here on the front. Not to worry, it won't hurt anyone. That's just to deter any unwanted users. Since the pads and control panels cost next to nothing, at least for us that is, we ended up building one at every single asteroid that we terraformed, as well as the city and our Genesis initial landing area where we started terraforming the planet. The reason for this, of course, is because we want a interconnected system of a way to travel throughout the planet, as well as the heavens, of course. Speaking of the planet, by the way, there's also been a bit more terraforming that's been completed while we've been working on the city, as well as our teleporters. New forests, deserts, and shrublands span for miles and miles, as far as the eye can see, if you're on the surface. But from orbit you can also see even more, even at all of our asteroids at this point. Previously, I think it was only back at our cloning base that we could even see a difference on the planet. But now, it is quite obvious from any and all points of view, which, to be honest with you, is pretty spectacular. Because of this massive expansion in all of the biomes, that also means that the grasslands where our city was built is quite warm now. Wildlife is finally beginning to stir and grass is growing from the soil once more, which said wildlife is pretty fond of, I must say. Yes, indeed, the planet, the biome, the city, we are all thriving. Truly, I must say, it's crazy what you can accomplish when you exterminate the human race and also do a massive terraforming operation on an entire barren world. That way you can reset it to 0 and create your own. Speaking of which, I think that this planet might finally be ready for its first humans. I'm gonna be heading back to where it all began on this planet when we landed on our asteroid that became our cloning base. God, it feels good to be home. I've been overseeing the terraforming from the surface for so long, Brian, my old pal and my creation, I almost forgot how beautiful it all is from up here. Anyhow, let's me and you grow some babies in a test tube, eh? This is normally the part where Barry says something hilarious and all we hear is chirping. I miss her. But even in my saddened state, I still have a lot of work to do, like putting our 2 human DNA samples inside these gigantic test tubes. That way we can grow a couple of little bubblegum fetuses. Oh, that's right. Eat your rice, little fellow and fellowette. You're gonna need to get big and strong to help us colonize this planet with your species. You have no idea what I'm saying. You don't even have brains yet. Soon, though. Very soon. Hold that thought, misshapen fetuses. As it would appear, we are under attack by the Trade Alliance. I should have known. I knew we hadn't fully eradicated all these humans. We just couldn't find out where the last of them were hiding. Well, it looks like they've come to us to be slaughtered. How kind of them to help us out with the extermination. 3 large human armies versus 2 Archotech, Sarek, and Laldy with their advanced weapons and armor? Damn, I just wish it were a fair fight. But then again, I don't know if the humans could muster the force it would take. Let's kill them, boys. Well, if this is going to be the last of the humans, I suppose that I should finish what I started, shouldn't I? Boy, it's nice to finally get to use my armor again. Alright, Garrick, you know the drill. Send me feet first into the fray. This is gonna be an absolute bloodbath. Don't worry, Barry, we won't let any of these bastards anywhere near your tomb. We're gonna keep you safe. Humanity's last and final stand here on this planet. Were it not so pathetic, I would almost consider it somewhat admirable. And were they not such evil, vile creatures that know nothing but greed and destruction? But they are, and so I don't. Look at all the chaos and destruction they've already caused here. All our terraforming gone to one great big fire. I guess we had better start teleporting the clone army down here. That way we can try to put out the Oh, would you look at that? It would seem the planet has a water cycle now. Well, that is mighty handy, and also mighty good news. It looks like all our efforts are not going to waste, nor are they in vain. Not even here. Saving our grass as well as our other vegetation, and especially our Archean trees. And speaking of which, with those, I don't think it'll take us long at all to repopulate this area with some proper rich soil, as well as some proper vegetation. For our humans, though, I'm afraid that you have done literally nothing. Even your great big fire was put out by the one thing that you came to conquer. The very planet itself. It's not your fault, though. You were fighting literal technological gods. There was, quite frankly, no way of you winning this little kerfuffle, and I'm actually quite grateful that you came here so that we could finish you off properly. Barry, my friend, I'm just glad that you're safe above all other things. I can't wait to tell you about this when you wake up in a few million years. I don't know if I can stand waiting that long, but I suppose I'll have to. I'm gonna have my hands full in the meantime, though, because it looks like our little humans are about to pop. Oh, there they are. Ew, they're so slimy and... oh my god, they're so loud. Archotechs don't do that. I'll overlook it, though. Let's just put them back in the oven to bake for a little while longer, eh? Don't worry, you precious little Adam and Eve specimens. You can come back out when you're, let's see, about 20 more years old. Yeah. That's about right. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and begin making preparations for your arrival. I plan on letting our Adam and Eve of this world live in the Archotech city, at least for a time until they're ready to go out on their own. And every good city needs a defense. Well, obviously they have all the Archotechs here who, if we die, let's be honest, there's no chance for this entire world. But also they have a great big wall made out of Archotech fragments in mass. Realistically, it's more symbolic than anything, although I do suppose that it protects them from animals who might be hunting them out in the woods as they can't come in. So that's a plus. We've also equipped our Archotech ship, the seeding ship that we've used to terraform many an asteroid, with a proper shield. That way, if shit really absolutely hits the fan, the inner part of the city here will be completely safe. We're talking if a small moon manages to hit the planet or something and lands right on top of us. Real cataclysmic shit, you know what I mean? But only the best of defenses for our brand new human race that we're going to be raising here. We have to plan for every single possible outcome or conundrum that could come our way. Along with that, the city is also made up of Argo soil. You might have noticed this earlier and just thought that it was some really hideous looking dirt. Well, if you thought that, then you are a silly Billy, for Archotech soil is the most fertile soil in the entire universe. It does cost, of course, some Archotech fragments, but that's not that big of a deal. With this being the most fertile soil as well, it's also part of our backup plan if something bad happens to the planet and it becomes completely barren or a gigantic lava lake of a sweltering hell. The city will still be safe and able to grow plenty of crops, as well as house life. But my friends, just like that, in the blink of an eye almost it would seem, we have our two fully grown adult humans. Wow, they grow up so fast. Well, when they're stuffed in growing vats, that is. I suppose a congratulations is in order, Brian. Technically, you are the mommy of these two. Technically, you're probably also the mommy of the entire Archotech clone army, but we'll let you claim these two, okay? Now then, with all the pleasantries out of the way, let's get down to business. And also down to the planet's surface where our city is. It's time that we introduce our two new creations to all of their gods. Welcome to the glorious city of gold, my lovely Homo sapiens. Take a good look around, really take it all in. Your descendants will write stories and songs and sing praises of how you arrived here for eons to come. Ah, yes, you have no idea what I'm talking about. How could I forget? Well, we're gonna get you on the right track, I promise. Starting off, how about some proper names? Maybe Primus, meaning first, and Vita, meaning life, both of which symbolic and mythical in their own right. But together you will be legendary. Ah, I almost forgot. Let me show you to your new and also your first home. Naturally, until you start having babies to go about repopulating this planet, and also you know how to defend yourself and fend for yourself. We can't just have you going out into the wild. You'll get eaten by a bear or a coyote. No. You'll be staying with us for a little while at least. You have yourselves a dining room where you can mingle with us godly creatures. And of course, we have an Arco Nourisher that shall keep you fed automatically without you even having to take a bite out of anything. But I understand that you might get a little bit of a hungry feeling where you actually want to eat, with your teeth. So if that becomes the case, I'm sure we can whip something up for you. We also have an enrichment room where you can exercise and practice maybe your bear fighting skills. You could test your minds with a bit of chess or just lounge around a bit if you like. This is your bedroom where you sleep and be fruitful and multiply. When you're ready, of course. No rush. I know you've only been sentient and conscious for about a day now. But, of course, once you do finally start having children, we also have a nursery here, operated by the best of the best, our very own Brian. She'll be able to teach you how to be a nurturing and loving set of parents in no time. And then once you're finally ready, you can go out into the semi-safe world, spreading across the entire planet like wildfire. See? It's a good metaphor. What do you say, folks? Are you ready to start a new human species here on this planet? One that is going to be kind and nurturing and loving to one another. A species without war, without pain, and without hate? I thought so. Let's do this. As we're gearing up our two new humans for this repopulation effort, we are continuing our terraforming of the entire planet, as well as you well know, because we've been doing it for quite some time. And along with that, of course, it is going to continue to take some time, eons and eons, I can't stress that enough. So I suppose we'll be returning to this planet once it is fully terraformed, and perhaps even once our new human species has already populated the entirety of this planet. But before I leave you today, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you ever so much for sticking with me throughout this series, and honestly, thank you for letting this series be possible. The original video of surviving and beating RimWorld as an Archotech, though obviously very much possible, I never expected it to turn into this, but it was because of you fine folks, as well as our amazing patrons, who made this series, as well as every series on the channel that has come before, that's ongoing right now, and that will come, possible. So thank you, as always. I love you. Well, with all this done, there's only one place I want to be right now. I think I'm gonna sit around and chat with my old friend for a while. One last time. For this series, that is. Don't worry, though. You'll be seeing me, as well as our good compadre Barry, in the very near future. See you later.